locked into this rock. And as I said, our job is to find the elders who can relate to these rocks. So this is one of these rocks that's meant to be held and then meditated upon. What we found interesting with this rock is that it's an 8-sided rock. It's been specifically shaped like that. You've got lots of sharp marks like we've had before. There's quite a lot of lines that run through it, and all those lines don't make sense. And you'll notice once again, you've got your chert, then straight away you cut away and you've got another rock underneath. You're going to see more evidence of that in a second. This one's got about 20 imprints on it. It's got an amazing set of really fine lines, so fine that you can barely see them. They're like a hair's width, which gets back to this thing that no chisel could do this. So I'm going to get to the full story of that with the next one anyway. So this rock and also has lines that go all the way around and lines that join on, and it's got about 4 different widths of line. And it started to dawn on me the width of the line was important too. It becomes such a complicated procedure. Then we get on, and there's the imprints on the edge of it. There's all these imprints that run on the edges where they do the stamping on the edges. But if we can go on to the next rock, Evan. There's the imprints again. He seems insistent on staying on that rock. If we could get, thank you, we are getting on to 4 now. Okay, this rock for me is with number 5. Now before we go any further, ladies and gentlemen, there are the groups of rocks. They each have a function. And if I can very quickly, I'll point them out to you. The 5 down the bottom there are all to be held with the right index finger, and each one of them has a wear mark for that side. All those 5 are to be held like that. These ones here, and I'm going to talk about, we just talked about one, and we're going to talk about another one today. We believe that they're the ones because we can find no way to hold them. We feel they're the ones that should be held in the palm itself, but we may be wrong about that. Above there, you'll see the rock I showed you before, which is this one here, which is the most sacred rock. What you're going to find is this rock here is exactly the same dimensions, proportionally 1/3 the side. And when you turn these around, you'll find they'll turn around together. It's the same rock, but a smaller version. This is another category of rock. We think these are maps and tells us really important stories. Further on, you've got the 2 spiderweb rocks, the ones in the middle there, and I'm going to talk about them soon. The ones on the far edge there, both are to be held with the right thumb. Each of them have a different job. Up the top, the buggered if I know group, I don't know what that one is, and the middle one is the shaped rocks, which we're going to get to soon. There's 2 shaped rocks. One I've got here, which I'll show you later, and that one. And the shaped rocks, the shapes make stories. The shape itself will make a story. Okay, now if we can go on to number 4. Number 4 is very important. I don't even know where I put it. Oh, here it is. It's because now we get the full narrative, ladies and gentlemen. Have a look if you can. Can you see that sort of creamy approach, and then all of a sudden there is a hole. And this rock, it's here, and it goes down 1 centimetre. And guess what? The rock underneath is cream, it's sandstone-like, and it's got really thick grains, and it's nothing like the rock on top. And with this rock, I can see underneath the rock is not the same. Now, our geologist friends from around the world have had so many problems identifying this rock. One of my professors thought maybe what they've done, they've wrapped it in yellow clay and the clay has marked it. No, I'm sorry. There is a rock underneath, and you can see that rock. I've looked at it, and it's down inside there, and it's yellow, and it's very, very coarse-grained. And what's on top is very fine-grained, and it's chert. They are 2 different rocks. This was melted. Now, this rock also has on it, look at the back there where they did the pecking. That's the hardest pecking we've seen anyway. They really pecked into it. And lo and behold, what do you get underneath there? It's a different coloured rock. It's not the same rock. It's not chert. Yes, it's a chert overlay. Then the rocks change. Sometimes it's this yellow colour. We've got 2 different types of rocks that are underneath. So when I say to you, they cooked it, you're starting to think there might be something in this. Now, this one's got marks too. I think you've got one more picture of it. Oh, no, we'll go on to the next one. All right, so we have 4 and 5. These basically have the same sort of thing. This introduced me to the idea, because the first two were all straight lines. And whenever I saw a line that wasn't straight, I said, oh, it's natural, it's natural. No, it's not. They've meant to make the lines differently, because this line here is a straight line that then becomes ragged and curved. So we know they're the same thing. Now we're going to deal with a rock that breaks all the rules. This rock was very, very, very expensive, wasn't it, Evan? The seller did not give this away cheaply, I can assure you. I nearly wept when I found out how much he had to pay for this. But here's the problem. Rocks aren't like this. Where to start? First of all, the layers, you won't see it when you come, it is laid like that. It's like someone's painted this on. The grain runs exactly the same on all four sides. That's ridiculous. It shouldn't happen. Secondly, it is the same thickness on every side. You'll see these little marks there. Now, I was told they were the constellation marks of the stones, of stars. You know what I thought? Nah, maybe they didn't lay this properly and it's come away. I didn't care, because I saw technology here that doesn't make sense. Now, what really doesn't make sense, can you go back please one, Evan, if you don't mind? Here's the lip. See that lip there? Here it is here. This lip that goes across here is way wrong. I'll walk up and let everyone see this so you get a decent look at it. This lip is actually come off the side here. It's like candle wax. You know when candle wax will run down as it drips? Well, what you've got here is you've got every side perfectly the same. Then we come up to this one here, you'll see how it's actually pushed down and run down there, but every other side has been perfectly the same. But here, we've got a problem. It's dripped down the side. If you look very carefully as I go back, you'll see the push marks there where they've pushed it away. Yes, pushed it away. You can see there where it's been pushed to the side and pushed down. And I'll take it back down to the other group. We have two groups here, and we'll show you the same thing. Bear with me, I'm coming back now. You'll see here that there's been a push away there and it's come down the side. Just there, you can see the mark there, and then it's been pushed back like that, so it's dribbled down the side. So what we now have is absolute proof where this has been pushed here, not up the top, just there, and it's run down the side.
If you put a straight edge on that, is it straight?
No, not there.
No, on that side there. Like, is that perfect?
Yeah, oh yes, yeah, they're all flat like that. Everything's perfectly like that. This has been done for a reason. This rock has to be held like this. It's pretty obvious to me it was made to be held. What's also interesting is we were told that this here is the Navajo called this the squatting man. The squatting man, this little piece here. If you could just put up the thing that goes with it. If Evan's going to go back to the mark, you're going to see the mark in a bit. There's Corona Borealis. Can you go on to the next one, please, Evan? And you're going to see the top there, and you'll find it's the same circle of stars. It's the Navajo squatting man. And there, since then, we found out, yes, there's the 3 pointer stars for Orion. They are constellations. Each of these were made to be constellations. So every side, when you see these little pecks here, was meant to be a perfect constellation. Now, I didn't care. The technology blew me away. And when they said it was a constellation rock, I can tell you one thing, the collector took this rock to bed with him every night. This was the rock that went to bed with this collector for 70 years until he passed on and he gave it to his son. This was the rock that was special. It was called the constellation rock by the elders, not by him. What I looked at is I didn't care whether this was a mistake or it was real. I knew this had been baked. Now there's that yellow. You saw the yellow on the rock before. There it is again. Now when I say to you, we need 2,000 degrees to bake this chert, we do. And was this baked? Yes, it was. I'll put this rock in front of any scientist, any mechanic, any engineer and tell them this was baked. And they're not going to be able to convince me otherwise, because rocks aren't like this. Every side is smoothed off the same. It's been done for a reason. This is communication at a level, ladies and gentlemen, that we still have trouble dealing with. And you may think that's amazing, but we've still got a couple more. And by the way, I've only done an intensive study of 8 of these rocks yet. It takes so long. You might think, oh, well, it's just there in front of you. No, I got a white fella head in here. Nothing's that plain for us. We have to look many times before we see things. So, ladies and gentlemen, there we have. This is the constellation rock. This was baked in an oven. It was baked deliberately, and it was done for a reason. It's a story here. The problem is, I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to say this time after time, we have one major drawback. The people who did this are far more intelligent than the mob we have today, and that includes us. We have a problem. They're ahead of us. We have to catch up with that. Okay, the next one, please, mate. Ah, my favourite. Oh, where did I put it? Oh, here it is. This one. It's funny, it's really not like, it's not as dramatic as all the other rocks, but this one means a lot to me. In fact, when we hand them all out, there's a good chance I'm going to be keeping one. It'll be this one. Not the big one, but it's got some stuff in there that mean a lot to me. First of all, I showed you some infills before. Nicely sealed in. Not this one. Not this one. This has been meant to stick out. This spills over one side, it spills over the other side. It is big. It's huge. And you can see, look at that, how it ridges up. You can see the infill starting, they're ridging up right above the top. They've made no attempt to hide this one. I thought the infills were meant just to fill up the gap and to keep things smooth, maybe do something on top. No, and there's no marking on the top of this. There are some markings on the side, but nothing on the... You're taking over my role with a pointer now, eh? Oh, well, no, you're supposed to check for that, weren't you? What I also like, up in that corner, just up there, you're not going to see it that well, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of construction there where they've dug things out in V's and stuff, and you'll find the V points to another piece of construction. Each one of those construction points to something else. There's nothing in here that wasn't done for a reason that has a meaning. And when you start to look at these rocks in combination, you start to realise, oh, I can't get this. Now, there are marks on this one. There's some fascinating marks. There's lines running in different directions. We are up to 5 different diagonals. This one's got about 4 widths on it. There's cuts on the side there that were done. Okay, let's go on to the last 2 because there's one of those particularly. Yeah, there's some of the cuts again. Now, we have the Spiderweb Rocks. And when I saw this rock, I looked at this and said, oh, God, what a dog's breakfast. It's got about 4 sets of marks. It's got these spiderweb marks, it's got another set of marks underneath, another set of marks underneath, and it doesn't make any sense at all. It really is a mess. I've looked at it quite a few times. I said, oh, there's nothing there. And I've always put this in the B team. I've got a group of rocks I call the B team. They don't quite get, they don't write a chapter of world history, so they don't get done in. But, can we go to the next picture, please, Evan? I don't know how well it's going to come up. Oh, you have to go back. Is that all you got from there? Yep. Go back. Oh, dear. I have to carry your weight again. Right. Oh, I can see it. All right. You have to bear with me on this because it's not a great picture, and unfortunately the photographer's really let me down a bit here. I was hoping for a bit more than that. Ladies and gentlemen, did anyone bring a stick or a branch into the place when they came here? Has anyone got anything that's long and pointy? Hello? Anyone got a... Yeah? They go together. Go back, please. Will you go back one, please, mate? No. Those ones? Keep going. Back. You're going forward. Go back. Keep going. Yeah? My favourite, yeah. Oh, thank you. Gotcha. Okay, thanks for that. Right, Evan, where am I up to? Because your job to do this. Thank you. Right, goes with the Spiderweb Rock. That's why I keep him here. When I lose what I'm up to, that's one of his jobs. Okay. What was that? Oh, spider. No, get back to the Spiderweb Rock. I know. Okay. Right. I was getting a stick. That's right. We're having a stick. I was going to try and point at it. See what happens when you get old around my age, Fennicum. And you only got 5 or 4 short-term memory cell builds. Anyway, we'll try and do it anyway. Look, ladies and gentlemen, what I want you to do, as best you can, God. I want you to look towards the top of that rock, where I'm pointing now. If you look towards the top, you might see 4 lines over in this corner here that are joining up, and they look like it's a triangle. Can anyone, I hope you can see it. It's up there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, you may not see them well. You can come down and look at them for sure. You got them? Yeah, because I didn't see them for about 5 years. Oh, Jesus, all that trouble for nothing, man. I'm thinking you guys can see it real easy. Yeah, of course you can now. Right, thanks, Evan. Righto. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's something that I found out. Took me God knows how long to see this little buggers, but anyway, what you've got is the first line, the third line, and the fourth line are identical to the millimetre. They make a pyramid, and they just went. Okay, they made a pyramid. And then the other line at the back there is the back part that you don't see, because the other 3 go around to make a perfect pyramid. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they meet at the same point. What is the chance that the people who did this managed to get 4 perfectly straight lines, and 3 of them were exactly the same, to meet at the same cap point? Now, if you take this out in the sun and you've got a magnifying glass, you will find that all of the lines, they're very fine, but those 2 that don't look like they go to the top do. All 4 of them join at that point. That is a rectangular pyramid. So if you want to know where people got the idea of building pyramids, start looking for the country that no one would ever thought of, because there's the plan for it. Now, that's been scribbled over. That's old. Stuff has gone on the top of that, and they've written above that and over it. So that means that that is ancient. Now, if I'm telling people, and I've tried to tell the scientists, and they won't look at this sort of stuff, that's the sort of information they're leaving there. So when we think it's just writing, it's pictures, it's directions, it's maps, it's everything. It's their history. And it's on these rocks. And for God's sake, we put it on paper and discs and we think it's going to last. No, it won't. But this will. You make your own rocks and you build them yourself, then you've got a good chance of controlling it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's number 7 and 8. Now, the other one, which is the last one there, this one here, which we call the Spiderweb Rocks, what's really interesting about that, when you have a close look at it, you'll find there's as much information on this that's imprinted that didn't come out as a mark, which proves to me they imprint the rock first. Then they cover it, and then they cut sometimes, and some they leave there. You'll find as many marks on this that you can't see. It's just sitting in, and you can feel it underneath your fingers, all these marks they've put in here. So we've learnt from this, they make the marks on the rock, then they cover it. And with this rock, the beauty of this rock is, if you look between the gaps there, you'll see just little whiffs of the chert. It's still there as it's been abraded away. The last pieces of chert are coming off and exposing what's underneath. So that's what we've got from these 8. We still have 13 more to look at, and I think some of them have got more deep. I'll pick up more as we go along. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we have is an historical story that tells us that the original people, like somebody quite rightly asked me, we've shown us some amazing technology. What did they do with it? Where did it go? Like we've heard stories of Atlantis, Lemuria, where they have civilizations that fall into disrepair, then the whole thing gets destroyed. I don't know the answer to that one. I really don't. I've got clues, and my take is, yeah, they knew about this stuff, but they saw through it before we did. They said, no, it's not going to work. We'll walk away from it. We're not that brave. We can't walk away from it. But I can tell you, I think there's a fairly good chance. The one thing I can tell you is we've got some more stuff here that's just as amazing as that. There's a lot more to this story than just ancient civilizations. So we're going to push the barrels a bit now. Up until now, we stayed pretty solidly stuck on science, and that gentleman just gave me something that makes my day. I'm a teacher. I need devices. Oh, where was this when I needed it? Right, now I've got some power here. Oh, this is even better than the other one. I feel comfortable with this. Now I can point. Right, now I've got a decent pointer. Right, ladies and gentlemen, oh, this is deadly. This one again, have a look at this one. You can spin the four sides together. That's the baby. That was also going to be used. You'll find that one's got very faint writing, just about gone. It's marked on three sides. So is Ross's Rocks 1. They're both marked on three sides. They are the same sort of thing. So, let's leave that for now, ladies and gentlemen. We could spend the rest of our time there, but we'll want to do a few others. We've got about 50 sites. We'd like to do 10 if we can. So far, we're stuck to one. What's next? And I'm hoping... cover that up, please. Get rid of that. Thank you. Right. A complete change. All right, ladies and gentlemen, during the next period of time, we're going to talk to you about original sites. And when we do original sites, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm sometimes going to talk about things that have happened there that don't fit into mainstream expectations, and scientists won't like what I'm going to say. I'm going to talk about things that have happened that you're going to have to say, that sounds like magic to me. It's part of the deal. You want to talk about original history, and you don't talk about the spiritual part, then you don't talk about it. But before I talk about blackfella magic, I like to do some whitefella magic. Because if I'm not mistaken, I know Kano's going to back me up, we talk under the banner of Wirichin. Kano gave us that, right? And I appreciate that. It means blackfella, whitefella dreaming. Time for a bit of whitefella dreaming here. I'm going to do some magic here. Now, there's one person in this room who I know knows about this. You're not going to get involved. I can't have someone doing this that already knows the answer. Then people would question my magic. And that would be wrong. We can't have that. Thank you. So you're not allowed to talk to anyone alongside you. And to show you how this has not been pre-staged, there's only a small group here today, I'm only going to do this right now in front of you so no one can say this is pre-staged, and I spoke to someone earlier and set this up. I'm going to ask for 2 volunteers, and of course I'm not going to ask the gentleman up there because he already knows what's going to happen here, and he probably knows as well as I do it's been chaotic every time. I've never got it right once, but that doesn't stop me. What I need now is 2 volunteers. I'm persevere, I'm a teacher. I don't know when to be told to shut up. And I'm going to ask them just to hold this piece of paper. They don't have to speak in front of the group there, and just help me with a little bit of telepathic magic. 2 people that are young. I need 1 lady, 1 gentleman, because otherwise I'll be accused of being sexist. Don't show anyone that, please, and don't let others see it. I need a gentleman now. Hello, pointing to someone up the back there. That's really nice. I like the way someone gets dobbed in here. And they pointed this gentleman up here. That's Christine's fault. You know that, don't you? And we do know that if Christine points to someone, I have to do that. I don't have a choice. When Christine rings up and says, Kano wants to talk to you, believe me, I drop the phone. I do that. Okay, now we've got 2 people. Now what they're going to do is when I nominate I won't nominate the volunteer. We're going to get a volunteer from the audience. It won't be you. It'll be someone else. And they're going to be the person who we're going to experiment upon. Now, you do realise because we do this cheaply, we have no insurance. So if you come out of here walking here like a zombie and can't speak anymore, we can't help you. We're not covered. We're going to invade your brain. And we're going to actually invade your brain and put a sentence in there, and you can't do anything but say what I'm going to get you to say. So, who would like to volunteer? I've got about 3 people put their hand up, but I know you, Dermot, so you've been with me before. Someone's going to say, if you do it, the lady behind. This is a lady who made sure we had a light show, so it has to be her. Without you, I would have been doing charades by now and trying to draw pictures of what I was going to do. God knows that. Charades. Oh, I got done in for my English here. I'm an Australian. It's charades where we come from. Now, this is what's going to happen. Where's my 2 volunteers here? You're at the front there. Here is the subject. Gentleman up the back, can you see this lady here? This one here. Look, one other time we did this, and I had the person alongside yell out the answer because the person wasn't concentrating, aimed at the wrong person. Don't aim at Dermot. Aim at this young lady here. Now, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to give you an artefact. This has actually been found somewhere, and I'll talk more about it later, of course. And I'm going to drop that artefact into your hand. And as that happens, Those two people now are going to look at the word. You may look at it, but don't let the others see it. And they're going to start thinking that word, and they're going to aim that word at you. And I'm also going to put that word at you. And between the three of us, we're going to make you say it. I only have one thing to fight. There's only one thing that can make this go wrong. Do you know what it is? Doubt. Somebody here that doesn't believe I can do this. That's you. Here's the reason why I never get this done, because every time he says I'm not going to get it right. And because of that, last time, what did I have to do? I banished him. I sent him out of the room because he ruined it. I'm letting you stay here, but you are not to think any negative thoughts. I think it would help. Yeah, I think you better. You've had chances. Right. Now that you're gone, here we go. Now, I'm going to drop this piece, artifact. It's metal. It is metal. I'm going to drop it in your hand. Okay? And the first word that comes out of your mouth will be what you've got written there, what you've got written there, and what I've put into your head. Is it hurting? You're okay so far? Yeah. No pain or migraine here?
No, we're playing at this, aren't we?
Oh, this is serious, man. This is so serious. I'm finally going to get a win here. You ready? Now, when I drop it in there, you're going to think, oh, this is the word that's going to come out. What's the word?
Rain.
Sorry?
Rain.
Rain. Okay, it probably wasn't the first thing I was hoping for. Rain. Where are you, Evan? Oh, yeah, I thought so. Rain, yeah. Right. Rain, it is sort of raining artifact. Can we play with that? Look, this is made of metal, isn't it? Metal.
Is it?
Oh, it is, yeah, trust me, it's made of metal. Metal's normally pretty sort of heavy, isn't it? Well, it can be heavy. Most metal is heavy.
Not aluminium.
No, aluminium would be what? Well, how would you call that? You call that not a heavy metal, but what? Oh, that's an interesting word. Okay, yeah, that's interesting, that one. Okay, so if it was like aluminium, you would think it would be light. Right, okay, fine, right. All right, look, I might drop that in there again. Where are you? Stay lower. We're going to get it this time. Here we go again. I'm going to drop this back in. Now, you might think this is going to be heavy when it hits your hand, but it may not be. I just don't want to put words in your mind before we get there. So it's coming down now. This thing, metal that probably isn't heavy is going to hit your hand. It's going to feel when it hits your hand that it is very light. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Right, you can come back up now. I've done it. Thank you for your help up the top there. We had a problem with him, but we've got it. Light. It didn't take much time. Thank you so much. And Evan, I did it this time. That was pure psychic ability.
We in Sydney, I didn't get it.
No, you didn't get it in Sydney either. That's why I can't ask him again, because we did it in Sydney and we didn't get it then. By the way, I'm now batting 1 from 13. I want to make the point. On one occasion, I got the word light. I don't remember when, but... Now, ladies and gentlemen, there was probably a reason why I did that, and the reason is this. This particular metal was found between the two walls at Bambara, and there's 300 glyphs there. You might have heard about them. We might get them. We probably won't. That's not important. What is important is it's metal. It was found between two Egyptian walls with carvings there. It is not iron ore. It's not magnetic. It doesn't have copper in it. It doesn't have brass in it. It doesn't have lead in it. Yet it was found between the two walls. When Auntie Minnie Mason, the original elder, found it, it was covered and took her half an hour to clean this up. She just sensed there was something there. Now, if you look very carefully, can you see that round piece there? That was a perfectly firm clasp. Auntie Minnie's children used to wear it to parties. Well, you don't normally take 4,500-year-old artefacts and wear them at parties, but you can. But it broke. So it was perfectly formed. It was a piece of jewellery. But nobody would make jewellery like this. And they certainly wouldn't have made it out of metal that's not metallic and it's not magnetic. This is a light metal. Some people have told me they think it is aluminium. Problem with aluminium, you've got to extract bauxite first, then get all the impurities off, then you've got to melt it to 1,200 degrees. Oh, there's that heat thing again. We're having a problem with heat around here, ladies and gentlemen. It keeps popping up. Okay, so here's an artefact made of metal. Of a metal that we don't make it from, that's laying in Australia too. There's a combination. There's a commonality taking place all the time. This is actually normally ranked about number 10 on our list, but I thought we'd bring it in for a change. Okay. Okay, we'll move that one, please, Evan. We'll go on to the next one, which is probably I'm going to say I think the most important artefact in this country is that Ros's Rock number 1, followed by number 5. But from my point of view, the most important site we've been to is the next one. If I can share this with you, we'll probably spend most of our time on these really important sites. We won't get past 10 for sure. This is the site that I think Stonehenge is the poor cousin of. I can tell you that the person who worked on this called this Australia's Stonehenge, but he was wrong. It's more important. Now, let me explain. The person who did this, his name is Frederic Slater. I mentioned before he was the president of the Australian Archaeological Society. He was considered probably the top archaeologist in this country. We have newspaper clippings of him, don't we, Evan, all the way through the 30s. He went and spoke at a science conference and they received him really well. He had papers written all over the country. Yet, if you go to the internet, you will not find a picture of him and you will not find one paper he wrote. Every picture, every piece of work he'd done was destroyed. He was wiped out of academia by 1939. We've now found his grave, haven't we, Evan? We found his grave. Nothing was said about that man past that point because he broke the rules with this site. He said things he should not have said. He told the truth, and you can't afford to do that. Okay, let's have a look at the site, please, Evan. Okay, there's been an elder that's in this room right now that's been to this place. What we have here is a computer-animated image that was put back together. We actually have the map of the 180, in fact, I've got the map of the 184 stones. Stonehenge had no map. This one, we have the map with every rock and its name written alongside there. What you have there is, from that map, they put together what it looks like. There are 184 of these stones. Now, the stones, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to make this point, and I'll show you one that's come from this region. Here's one here that came from there. This has been shaped in a certain way, and by the way, you can still cut yourself with that blade there. These guys are really stonemasons of the highest order. This has a meaning. Every side there means something. I've been with a person who understands that. Everything, and you place it on the ground and it has a meaning of its own. There are thousands of these stones up here, okay? Thousands of these stones, all cut like this. And remember, stone, stick and bone technology, so they tell us it's not true. Okay, let's have a look at this story. It starts in 1939 when the place is discovered. The good news is within 8 months it's been destroyed. Who's it been destroyed by? The Australian government. How do I know this? Because I worked with a farmer who destroyed the site. He was 15 at the time, and he gave us permission to do this. And I can tell you something, every time he spoke about it, he wept. He was 92, a staunch Catholic, but he wept because he knew it was a sacred site, and they had no choice. You see, in 1940, the government came to his farm and told him they were going to confiscate his farm because of the stones. So his dad said, go out in the morning and displough all of them into the ground, which he did. And the government left him alone, they kept their land. They had no choice. I can tell you the farmer had made it clear no cattle were to go on there, lest they walk on one stone and destroy it. That's what he wrote in 1938, so he was a good man. But he had no choice. The government were going to destroy it. Okay, let's have a look what happened. Let's go through the story. Now we can move on, please, Evan. Let's start with a fact, something you probably don't know. In the 1930s, you have no idea what we knew about Aboriginal people then. A lot more than you think. I thought as a teacher, I told my kids when I was teaching them, 1930s, no good, the day of mourning, locked up in missions and reserves, and that's all true. But there's another part of this story that was shut up. We started getting newspaper clippings, page 2, page 1. Evan's going to read one in a sec to give you an idea. The whole of Australia knew in the 1930s Egyptians were there. By the way, that's mummification from Australia. We know of at least 22 different forms of mummification in Australia. The Egyptians had about half a dozen. Rubbish by comparison. In fact, I read one report where they said it was Sir Grafton Elliott Smith, who was knighted because of his service to education, the first person to become a professor, an Australian academic. He said there's so much Egyptian artefacts in Australia, he cannot believe it. The place is full of it. That was common. He also spoke about the mummification process. He saw one mummification process was exactly the same as the 23rd dynasty. Even to this day, they used the same bone tool to extract the brain. It was the same. There was no difference. This was well known. Evan, if you wouldn't mind, I think, Evan, and we've chosen this deliberately, see what we've done here? We've chosen an Adelaide newspaper. This is from here, written in what year was it, 37?
1937.
Okay, this is what they were writing in the paper about original people. And this is what they were saying about the knowledge they had in 1937. I never heard it when I was a kid.
The Egyptians learned their system of hieroglyphs from the ancestors of our Aborigines. Mr. Slater seeks to prove that Stone Age Aboriginal believed that men came from a protoplasm created by God as a special species, and that the original man could speak from the moment of his creation. They had a deep knowledge of the hemocirculatory system. He believed the origin of the planetary system was tidal. He understood the creation of the world and knew much about light, darkness, and fire. Fresh evidence is also given that he believed in the immortality of the soul. It is stated too that aspects of Mr. Slater's research will be of particular interest to the students of the origin and history of Freemasonry.
Okay, so the planets moved tidally, protoplasms, that we had knowledge when we first came here, and then there's that weird one about the Masons. Who would have thought the Masons would be involved in this? I'll tell you who would have thought that, Professor Elkin. Do you know why he would have thought that? Because in 1931, same 37 that was written, in 1931 when Elkin was working with a mob up in the Kimberley region, never seen whitefellas before, no clothes. Elkin tried every neighbouring dialect, couldn't get a thing going, couldn't communicate with them. Finally, they sorted it out. The elders, and this, by the way, came from Elkin, not from me, started communicating to him an ancient Masonic hand signals. And then they started speaking in Egyptian. So when he says the Masons would have interest in what the Egyptians have got, what was here, I can tell you that's the case. I can also tell you in his notes, he will tell you that not only the Egyptians, but all of us got our writing from here. He will also tell you that all of us got our language from here. Clatch will say the same thing. There were quite a few people who were studying the original language and knew it was the base of all languages. So ladies and gentlemen, as we go through this story here, you're going to learn a fair bit about our history and where it comes from. And this gets back to all people come from us. If you can please, Evan, let's now look at the site in some more detail. Okay, lo and behold, you're going to find shaped rock after shaped rock. This is really a shaped rock place because the rocks were made to actually tell stories. So you're going to see this all the time. But as you look at these rocks, I want you to think of two things. Number one, there's not one percussion point on any of these rocks. When you shape a rock with a rock, you hit it on the side and you get a bulb or a percussion point. I've done it. I know how it works. There's not one on any of them. Secondly, here's the biggest problem. You're looking at a place that's a caldera, Mount Warning. You know what we don't have there? Sandstone. All of these rocks are sandstone. The closest quarry is 23 k's away. So we've got a problem. Let's look at the rocks, please, first, Evan. Now we've got a second problem. The rock you saw before was fine sandstone. This is coarse sandstone. Coarse sandstone is not found near the coast, it's found inland. These rocks didn't just come from one quarry near Broken Head or near Mullumbimby or somewhere like that. They came from a multitude of quarries. So we're wondering, what are all these rocks doing here? You'll find out more. Okay, keep going, please, mate. Then you'll see the sharp angles and the sharp lines there. What's the point in that? What is that doing? It shouldn't have a function. It tells messages, but I can't see any impact there. I can see that was cut clean, with sharp sides, like the one I've shown you. You can come and touch that one. That one you can touch because it's just a shaped stone. It's not sacred in itself. Next one, please, mate. Now, these are just laying in the ground next to the mound that was destroyed. They're in the dirt. They're fallen down the side there, and we still have the map. Stonehenge is easy to put together by comparison with this one. This is much easier because it's all there. Next one, please, mate. Right. Found 3 k's from the site. Slater gave me 9 symbols. Starts with a circle with 1 ray and moves up to a circle with 9 rays. They're very sacred. I'm not going to say the word because I know what it is, but it means guide to truth. Unity of life. This one was found 3 k's away from there, and it's got 9 rays in the circle. That confirms to me what Slater was talking about is true because we found that. That was only found 3 months ago. Okay, there's another picture of it. So we've confirmed his symbols that he put up And I'm going to tell you something else too. In case you think this is an old language that's gone, I want to tell you a story. I spoke to an elder about this language way back, and this elder sent me a picture. And he sent me a picture of a diagram he'd made, and then he marked out some symbols. He marked out 12 symbols. Every one of those symbols was on page 2 of Slater's notes. But this elder had never seen Slater's notes. Never seen them. And do you know what? Every symbol he gave me was on that page. And he told me this comes from the first language, but he hadn't seen my information. And I've got the only copy of those notes. There's only one other copy. It's locked up in a safe. We've got the only other copy. So what that tells me is this language isn't gone. It never went. It's still here. Keep going, please, Evan. That first language. Now, here's the problem. From a geological viewpoint, that first mound I showed you could have been natural. This is not natural. Geologists and geographers, teachers have looked at this one and they've all said the same thing. It doesn't belong here. You have 3,500 metres of sandstone, white sand, red sand and clay. And this is black soil where they grow sugarcane. And you know what? It was, here's my stick. Excellent. So keen were people to get near this mound, that area there has been bulldozed out. That's 5 metres high, and they've bulldozed the whole section out, and they've made all the roads, all the way around the sugarcane, so they can drive their cars there and tractors there when it's raining, because it's not the same stuff. They did it for that reason. When you look at that there, I've marked out each rock. Those rocks marked out there are all sandstone. If you walk past that point, you will not find another sandstone rock for 20 k's. If you walk past that point, you will not find another sandstone rock again. They're all put there. But my question is, how did they move 3,500 cubic metres of fill into one spot? How do you do that? I don't know, but I can tell you it's there. And it shouldn't be, but it is. Moving along, please, Em. All right, they're the shaped rocks we got from that one. We just wanted to show you the shaped rocks of everywhere. That one's got a double one, that's a different one again. And honestly, we could probably put up 40 or 50 of these. We just want to let you know. And notice how every one of them has a variation. There's no two shapes that are exactly the same. As I said, I wish that we were more intelligent. We could work out what the hell. A lot of them look like they're going to be pyramids and they cut a bit off there or cut a bit off somewhere else, put a mark in there. It always varies. You'll never get two the same. But you'll always find really sharp lines, and you can cut yourself with your fingerprints when you run along them. They're sharp. Okay, mate. Oh, right. Well, this is going to be interesting, isn't it? I've never told this before with the person involved in the story as part of it being here, have I? I don't know how to do this. Look, I did say, if we're going to do this, I've got to do it properly. Right. That sacred site, there was an amazing instance that took place before we started, and I won't go into a lot of detail with that, where basically what happened is before we began, I took the elders out the front, and 8 hawks were called and circled above the site. Okay? Now, I won't go into a lot of details with that because I know that happened, and there were quite a few people who saw that, and we all know what it meant. And if anyone wants to think it doesn't mean anything, well, you really just haven't got it at all, unfortunately. But I do want to talk about the last part of this. That particular site, the site I'm talking about, has a portal. Oh, God, here we go. I'm saying something unscientific now, aren't I? God, I get into trouble when I do this. Every time I get complaints, they write back and say, it was all going well until you said that. Oh, here we go. Okay, it has a portal. The portal was opened. It has a lot of information and meanings, and it means a lot. But I want to share one thing with you. Can you go to that picture now, Evan? Okay. This is what happened. Right. A lady, Iris, was there with us. About a couple of weeks later, she took a picture. It wasn't raining, and we photoshopped it. You can't see the proper thing because we cut it out. We don't want anyone to know where it is. It was the 2 rainbows coming out of the particular site. And she felt it was a power source. She felt it was a power source. She really did. And I got a phone call, and it was from somebody telling me I had to talk to an important elder that had some information. And when I get that phone call, I just drop everything and do the phone call. Only problem is I can't use mobiles. My son has to turn them on because I don't know how to use them. In fact, I don't know how to use any technology, do I? That's why he's doing that now. And I didn't want to look at his picture, and he said, there's a picture I want to show you, which is that. And I said, I don't care, I want to see it. He said, no, you're going to have to see it first. He said, I don't, I want to make a phone call. I don't want to see the picture. Anyway, he wouldn't give me the bloody phone, so I got to look at the picture. I said, great, fine, 2 rainbows, thanks for that. Give me the phone, I'll ring up. Got a phone call. I won't see who the elder is because the elder will know that anyway. And he told me, he said, yesterday, which was Wednesday, middle of the day, he said, did you feel it? I said, felt what? He said, it come out of that mound. It come out of that site. I could feel the energy. Now this elder was 3,500 k's away. He could see that. He could feel that picture. I couldn't. I was near it, but I didn't feel it. But what I find interesting is she took a photograph, and this was at 12 o'clock on Wednesday, and the person who spoke to me said it was the day before in the middle of the day. So when we talk about archaeology and we talk about these sites, I want you to understand the sites we go to, they're not dead. They never were. They might be resting, but they're not dead. I mean, the Southern Law still works around here. You're part of Southern Law. That never died. The same with this. This hasn't died either. And when that elder told me that the energy came out of that site, and he also said, you got proof of it. I didn't know it didn't. Well, we did. We had proof. That picture was taken. Now, of course, the cynical part of you will say, no, it's just a double rainbow. But the spiritual part will tell you, no, it's not. It is what it is. It's a portal, and it's open. That site, I want to close with this, and this is the first time I've remembered, isn't it, Evan? I've done this about 9 times, and I've forgotten this every time. Evan's going to read some sections now from Slater's interpretation of what the mound said. You wouldn't have heard this either because I've left it out every time, so this is new for you also. He's going to read, and you're going to find out why Slater in 1939 was going to get smashed for what he wrote. Okay, Evan, let's start with a section of stuff he wrote about the sacred language and what it meant.
Truth brought out on wings to earth from God to man. Guided by truth, man came to earth through darkness from the light of life that shines far off. Man came to earth as man with all his 7 senses and was established in truth.
Okay. First thing we hear with Slater, man came to earth. I'm just telling you what he said. I'm just passing on the information. Don't shoot the messenger, but this is what he said. He kept saying man came to earth from a light that shines far off, guided by truth. Man came here with 7 senses fully developed. That's what it says, but let's go a bit further. What else does he say, Evan?
Divine light emanating from a rod, which tells of a fire that brought life from afar, point east to west.
Okay, divine light. And further on, is there something there that says life in a bag?
Yep. God came in with light from darkness and gave man a soul, and the sons of man brought in with light became the pillars of heaven. Life is brought in a bag.
Oh dear, ladies and gentlemen, now it's getting a bit more specific here. I'm just going with the flow and what I'm being told. Now Slater's telling us that they made the soul, that they brought life in a bag. It's starting to sound something a bit, how can I put it? Has a genetic, this is where I get into trouble. God, did I get smashed for this? It has a genetic overflow. I'm feeling like they're telling us that the gods were involved in what's taking place here. Remember, we're the Homo sapien, but we're 2 lineages. I said 2 things made this thing here. One's Homo erectus or something. But what's the other one here? Because we've only, I don't know, but read some more. What else we got there?
He who brought life on from high, he who brought living things, then stepped back into the high regions from whence he came. He who brought life into the world set down men and women and gave them the sacred means of propagating life.
Oh, hang on. Gave the sacred means of propagating life. Now it's getting specific. This is, by the way, what the original people wrote. Slater's writing this in 1939 when he doesn't even know about this sort of stuff. He's saying there, the propagation of life, when you propagate life, ladies and gentlemen, that is specific. You are now making something. There's no other way around that. That's what he's saying. And we're getting this come on high all the time, are we, Evan? And we're getting this repeated. Can you turn the page? And I haven't marked this out. Would you read out to them? We need to we've been talking too much about Biami. We need to talk about Biami's wife, Mula Mula. See if we can get a clue about where they come from there. I marked that one out for you.
Yep.
Could you?
Mula was lifted down alive from a high place, and so instead of being made on earth, she came from the sky above.
Oh, Mula Mula, that's pretty specific here. I mean, Biami's wife, Biami maybe came from Earth, but Mula Mula, no. Was brought from somewhere else, was not born on Earth. That's so specific. Mula Mula was not born here, was not born on Earth. Now, I'll tell you about the nameless one. The nameless one was one of the sons of Biami, and he didn't want to stay here. So what he did was he went back to this tree that mingled with the stars. It was sky, it was so high. And when it took off, which is what they said, there was flame and smoke underneath. And the Southern Cross is where he went to. And that's what it says. And now you know why Slater's getting into trouble. He's gone too far. It's okay to talk about Egyptians. They were putting up with that. They could tolerate that. They could tolerate the Egyptians. But he's saying now the Egyptians, they came as apprentices here. They came to meet their masters. They were coming to meet or learn the wisdom of the ages. That's what he's saying there. He said their language, their hieroglyphs, their numbers, they learnt from these people. It's in his notes, believe me, all that's been said. And now, if I can finish with this, Biami. If you track Biami, I know the original people know this, 1 foot, doesn't have two. Do you know why he doesn't have two? The second one was cut off to make us. Sounds like Adam's rib, but I think they got it better this time because it's man and woman united. So Biami only has a 1 footstep because the other one was cut off to make us. This is what Slater was writing because he did know how to read the first language, and this is what the first language said. I call them inconvenient truths, but they're the truths we're getting. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the site. And at the moment, what would be wonderful is the site could come back together again, but that's a work in motion. Okay, we're going to sneak a few more in before we finish. What's next? I have no idea. Oh, long before true. Fascinating. Did we have that one for you or not? No, I think that one's new too, yeah. This is the best part. If you come later, we have new stuff, don't we? And we sure do. We don't want people to get bored when they come a second time. Long before true. Papua New Guinea was part of Australia until 8,000 years ago. Get that clear, please, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, Papua New Guinea is Australia. It's called Sahul. 8,000, 9,000 years ago, the water started to come up. Before then, we're all together. This was found there. It's a stunning piece of work. There it is. Let me tell you the story with this one. I met the lady, didn't we, Evan? Mum and Dad went to Papua New Guinea. And they were weird. Mum didn't drink Pims with the ladies in Papua New Guinea when they all got together and got away from the natives and all came together. She would go out and learn pidgin English and go and sleep with the villagers. This is in the 1970s and 80s. For an Australian woman, she's different. This woman is different. And all she wanted to do was to learn the culture and the language. Wonderful woman. And they knew of this special place, the one place they really wanted to go to, this place here. Took the kids. We met the kids, didn't we? You were there, weren't you, Evan? No, you didn't. No, well, I did anyway. They were 5 and 10 at the time. One was 12, so we can remember it really well. Took them 3 days to get to this place. The kids were dragged all the way through the bush, 1981, and they got to this place here. And this is what they were given. They were given 3 things. The other 2 aren't as interesting as this one, obviously. What is interesting is, where's my big stick pointer? Here it is this. Yes, it's basalt. Yes, Papua New Guinean people did not have metal, because you need metal to do that, at the very least. But there it is, and it was theirs. And after 2 days, they gave them this. But what's really interesting is that. You can barely see it. I just put a little mark on the bloody wall there too, so it won't point again. I'll blame someone else for that. I didn't do it. That is a 3 centimetre hole like that goes in 3 centimetres and it's perfectly flat and it goes into the neck. It was drilled, auger bitted in. Now my question is, I don't know what it means, but I know this. That hole, you can't do that until this last century, until the 1900s. You could not do what they've done there. The hole is perfect. And I've seen the sides of it. and it's a perfect round piece that's been extracted out, and it's that wide. It was taken out as one bit. What sort of tool do you need for that? Yes, what sort of tool do you need to make that? And of course, I'm going to make another point. As many people have said, yes, I know it looks like a grey. So a lot of people said, but that's a grey. I know it is. I know what it looks like, and I can tell you this also. There's an ear on one side and there's no ear on the other side. That's deliberate too. And I can tell you this also. There is no technology in Papua New Guinea. Well, there's no supposed to be any technology that can do that, but it's there, and it's theirs. It belongs to them. There were two other things we got alongside that, which we'll skip through, which is a bird that weighs over 3.5 kilos, and that's very heavy in the hand. And you'll notice there's chisel marks there, which has been scratched away. They don't have chisels, but they had something there. And then you've got something else, which I think is a piece of machinery, and I don't know what it is. I've no idea. I do know that the circle just tapers into half the size there, and it goes out like that, but I don't know what it is, and nobody does. It could be machinery, it could be something, we don't know. But we just put it up there because it was there. But ladies and gentlemen, what's really important there is there's that technological story. I don't know what it means, but I know what you need to make it. That's the point, and what you need to make it. It's not supposed to be there, but it is. But it is. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to get a few more in now, Evan. We'll sort of move along a bit. Right. The Standing Stone site. We found the place where the stones were delivered. And there we found thousands upon thousands of stones. Okay, if you can move onto the map, please, Evan. I'll take people through the map. I think it's up next. There's the map of the site. You row along a creek for about 3 kilometres. You can hear the sea. It's only 1 metre above or below where you are there. And as you go there, you see mangrove, sand, mangrove, sand. And then you go past a piece, which is 180 metres, where there's about 100,000 rocks. Then it goes back to mangrove and sand. That's the spot we're looking at. What you will find at that spot, now I've got my stick and I won't touch anymore, is it starts from up there and goes across there, and that 180 metres is the sum total of it. Secondly, more importantly, it goes about 2 metres onto the surface and about 8 to 9 metres in. We think it was a wall that was knocked over by a tsunami and then dragged back into the creek after the water had gone one way. And the rocks were knocked over. And a lot of these rocks were part of a wall. Some were shaped, but most were just rocks that were made for a wall. There's a road that runs off the jetty, which I'll talk about next, that goes 210 metres, and we stopped measuring it, and it goes like that. And the jetty, which goes out 9 metres by 5, when you stand on it, you look down to the creek bank, and the creek bank is lower. You're standing above. That jetty is made solely of sandstone, probably about 10,000 sandstone rocks. The others can be a mixture. If you can, please, Evan, we'll go and look at them. Okay, there you've got something new I haven't told you about before. Slater spoke about this too, and our geologist friend from Sydney Uni told us that is not natural. It's been marked. There are a series of marks that have a language too. I do know what some of them mean, but not many, and I don't know what that one means. But that's been deliberately marked, and by the way, some of those cuts go half the way through the rock. There's no mark on the other side. I wasn't chiselled again. This chiselling part is not part of this. Okay, the next one, please. That's an indication of how big some of these marked rocks become. I mean, the one I showed you before is nowhere near that size. They get quite large, and I don't even know where I put the damn thing. Oh, here it is now. Okay, the next one's interesting, ladies and gentlemen, because you will see there another marking, which is the guide to truth, and then another rock that's got these sharp angles like this. That one's much bigger. By the way, this one was thrown to me as being rubbish. He said, take this just to show people. An elder said, take it to show them. This is nothing special. There are rocks there that are far better than this, but they shouldn't leave there. One was taken to prove something, and we've proved that. We don't need to go back to it. And again, please, Evan. Okay, there's a section of the creek bank. Remember, the whole of the area is just sand. And now, with that, there's another picture there. Well, with these rocks, ladies and gentlemen, there's igneous, there's sandstone, there's metamorphic, there's every type of rock I've ever seen. And then there's rocks that weep oil. I don't know what they are. There are rocks there we've never seen before. If I feel like every rock that's ever been made is at this place. Okay, next one, please, mate. That's just to give, well, that rock they've seen anyway, so keep going past that. And, that's the last thing you need to know, ladies and gentlemen. If you take that side there and that side there, these two sides here, and the top one, they meet at exactly the same point. That's great symmetry. So that means the whole of this rock was made to a mathematical formula, and they knew the formula before they started. Okay, so they know their mass. As Slater said, Pythagoras got his information from the blackfellas. He got all his knowledge from the blackfellas. That is a small sample of the sandstone we took from the actual weir at the front, the little jetty. And what I noticed was there was every coloured sandstone I've ever seen. That's just from 1 metre. I know we're going, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get a few more for you, if we can, please, Evan. We'll skip that one. Okay, this one we do want to do. We'll do a couple more before it gets too long in the day. This is going to give you a new idea of what the people were capable of. So far you've seen little rocks, seen marks on little rocks, you've seen all that sort of stuff. Let's do some big rocks, Evan. Okay, this is a bit grander. This is in, by the way, every one of these pieces of archaeology we do is within southern law boundaries. This is just off the coast up near Queensland. I'm not going to say much about that. It's somewhere near Gympie. It's a shrine. Those rocks were cut and placed and stacked on top of one another, sometimes 5 on top of one another. That's 40 metres long. Each one of these rocks is granite and quartz, not sandstone, granite and quartz. One of the hardest rocks to cut. They stack one on top of another on top of another. That piece that's in there, that little shrine, is recessed in about 10 centimetres. All the rest of it's perfectly straight. If you can, please, Evan, we'll go through a few series of them. The next shot is to give you perspective. That's to give you an idea of how big this actually is. That rock fell from the top. It's sitting in the creek right now, and that gives you a feel for the size of the rocks we're looking at. This goes for 40 metres. There's about 60 rocks that have been cut and placed there. Now, there's one part of this that's bizarre, and it is this. I have no idea what's happened here, but I can tell you this. That rock sits in the water. There is the main shelf there. There is a gap between that rock and that one, and there's a gap between that and that. This is 6 metres by 3 metres. It's perfectly straight, and we think it's been slotted in. How'd you put it in? How did you cut it? It's slotted in. It's a different rock. It sticks out past that one. There it is there. And it doesn't belong to that one. And it's perfectly straight. And you go to the other side of that, and you'll find the same gap. What's it doing there? And before people think, oh, come on, they couldn't have possibly done that. Well, we've got some more, haven't we, Evan? Let's keep going and see what else we've got. Right, there's a close-up of some of the joins in case you think they're natural. These are the joins of 4 rocks that come together, and we've got a better one coming up. Then we'll move on a bit further, and we'll get into what was called our cube rocks. Oh, I should have mentioned this, as is expected. As you go to this site and as you leave this site, there are pyramid rocks on both sides. A pyramid, and it didn't come out that well. You might see how sharp it is there. Right, it comes up to the point there, across there and across there. It's a 3-sided pyramid. That's at the end of the site, and there's a freestanding pyramid, a different type, at the start of the site. I wonder why the Egyptians were obsessed by pyramids. I wonder where they got that from. Okay, let's do cubes now, Evan. Let's do cubes. Now that's natural. You guys, when you walk through the brush, probably see this sort of stuff all the time. Big, massive cubes that weigh a ton or so. Can you see how that cube is sitting on top of another rock? It's not natural. It's been cut. That weigh about 2 times that one. It's not the big one. That's what I call a medium-sized cube. We found 4 of them. Where we're at one amphitheatre, you're going to find another one in a sec. That one, that's probably 5 metres by 4. That is the creek there. You've got one side there, you've got that side there. We've been around the back, we've been underneath. It's not joined on. It's not joined on. If you do a side shot, it's been cut. It's been placed there. Now, we don't know why, but it don't belong. And it would weigh 10 tonnes. And it's granite and quartz. And we have no idea why it's there. But it shouldn't be. But you know what? I know, because I deal with these people all the time, archaeologists and geologists are going to say, oh, no, freak occurrence, but it's natural. But we've got something they can't argue with. And it's over here. See where that lintel has collapsed? Because this is ancient. We're going back 10, 20,000 years. We found something around the corner. That. And that's not natural. Because that rock is bigger than the rock underneath, and that rock is bigger than the rock underneath. They've all been stacked on top of one another. And they each weigh about 2 tonnes. That's the side of a wall. Nature doesn't do that. Nature doesn't do that. Humans do it, and beings do that, but not nature. That, when I saw that, I knew, okay, now we have archaeology. All the other stuff I thought maybe, but when I saw that I thought, okay, now we've got a tick. Because no archaeologist is going to argue that point. They'll argue the others, but not that. They were stacked on top of one another, like the other rocks. But now we've got it in 2 different places. Now something interesting happened here. We don't know what that is, but there was something here. All of what you've seen is one area. It's an amphitheatre. Something amazing was going on, and it's old, very old. The problem we had, ladies and gentlemen, to get to that site, you walk through 3-4 kilometres of rocks that are on a creek. There's no track. And you walk on top of the rocks, and every rock is not balanced. And I took 6 people in, and by the time we got there, only 2 weren't damaged. Him, yeah, put your hand up and claim it, and one other person. The lady said, I'm okay now. I can't feel my ankle, even though it was sprained. I can't feel my feet. I thought, well, that's probably not a good sign. The lady that fell over and knocked herself over refused to go any further, did she? I thought that was a bit weak. She could have felt... Well, she just knocked herself out, for God's sake, but she gave up, didn't she? I bled all over the place. It was becoming a bit of a drama. The strange part was we had 2 young ladies in front of us, and I couldn't keep up with them. But the reason I'm saying this is because of the next picture. That rock. That's what we're going to next. Now, there is no way that cut is natural, and look what's behind there. Another one of those rectangular rocks. They're all over the place, and they're not natural. This is an ancient civilization, and I'm going to tell you, some people ask me, did they build things? Oh yeah, they did. They built things. There's plenty of stuff around they built, and with some that we can't show you, but some we are, and this is one of them. They built amazing things. I just think that unlike other civilizations, they knew this wasn't the way to go, and they got rid of it. It didn't destroy them, they destroyed it. Okay, moving along, please, Evan. We'll do about 4 more, because it is getting to be a long day. Oh, God, are we up to that one? Yeah, we are. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Fair income. Oh, I hate doing this one. Oh, it's up. I suppose we've got to do it. All right. Crystal skulls. What a load of rubbish. Look, I'm going to start by telling you I've never read a book about crystal skulls. I know some of you people are probably into it and you think, oh, you're rubbing them down the crystal skulls. I'm sorry, I'm not interested in them. And I'll tell you why I'm not interested. Archaeologically, every crystal skull you want to talk about is garbage. And I'll tell you why. For one reason. You can't prove to me where you found it. You know, people come around with shows and say, I've got this skull and we found it here. Show me. Show me you found it. You see, from an archaeological viewpoint, if you can't do an in situ report that shows me, there it is, before I picked it up, you know what an archaeologist is going to tell you? You put it there. You bought it. People make crystal skulls all the time. And how do you date a crystal skull? You really can't. So from my point of view, I've had one of our group that's been working with, a guy called Short Vanderberg, has been on about crystal skulls for years, hasn't he? He says there's one in Australia. I said, rubbish. Well, there is one. Now, before he puts the next picture up, I want to tell you something. This lady rang me up and said she's got a crystal skull, and I said, I don't really care. She told me, no, it's really good. I said, oh, no, not in Australia, please. It's not part of the deal. I tried to meet her once and it didn't come off. I thought, yeah, I know why it didn't come off. I'm not supposed to meet her. I was quite happy with that. I didn't want to meet her because I really didn't. It was a waste of time. Anyway, we did meet her. And I've got to be honest, we met them the first time. I thought, they seem decent people. But I thought, it's a crystal skull. Can't be. And I told them, the reason I'm not going to look is because of one thing. You sound like good people. Prove it. Prove you found it. Well, lo and behold, they did. Because I've seen it. They actually did something that no other person with a crystal skull has done. They took a film and filmed the discovery. They actually took the camera with them, and I've watched the camera. Now, I can't show you because it'll show you where the site is, and then we'll have thousands of people going there. And I watched them climb up the hill, fall over 3 or 4 times, and then the camera behind being dragged up. No, it's up here somewhere. I know it's up here. Then they got to this rise, and they're standing there. Say, it's here somewhere. I know it's here. This woman's a psychic. Okay, I'm going to have to say that. She is a psychic, okay? I'm watching the film thinking, yeah, there's nothing there, lady. And then she picks up this red rock. She says, here it is. I think, poor woman, there's nothing there. It's a red rock. And she scrapes away the clay, and that's what was underneath it. She scraped it away in front of us, and I could hear the others gasp as they saw it. Now, I saw the reactions of the people there, and I saw the rock there. I'll tell you now, I could have spent the day there. I would have walked past that red rock and not even thought of it as a crystal skull. So, number one. Number two, these people don't want their name known. They don't want to put it on a show, and they don't want to make any money from it. They don't want anyone to know who they are. So I've got a problem here because I'm trying to find a reason why they lied. I can't find one. So we're going to show you this skull. And Evan, you're putting up the actual video now, aren't you? Okay, watch the video, and then I'm going to answer a couple of questions there. This is what they found. All right, there's the skull. Now, you might have noticed in the eyes, there's all these blue crystals. You might have noticed that around the suture lines of the skull, now I want to make a point here, no other crystal skull has suture lines for the skull. This is the only one that has it. This skull here also has 2 pieces of crystal that come away from the skull and then join up again. No other skull has that. No other skull has the formation of the teeth down the bottom of that. But the interesting part is the suture lines. The lady who found the skull covered all the suture lines up with glue and covered up the eyes with crystals. And you're wondering why. And I'll tell you why. This is her story. I'm inclined to believe it. That's why we put it up here. The story was this. From the time she picked the crystal skull up, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, it was giving information. Day after day after day. And after about 7 or 8 days, she hadn't slept. She was writing down the information. She's shown me the stack of paper. It's this big. And it was sending her crazy. So what she did was, she could feel it coming out of the eyes. So she sealed the eyes up. Then it came out of the sutures, the cracks in the skull. So she sealed that up. So it talks to her for 2 hours a day, and that's all it can do. That's all it's able to do. Now, what's really interesting is while I was talking to this lady, the time I was talking to her, all the time I spoke to her, she did 2 things. She smoked and drank Diet Coke. And I asked her to finish, why do you do that? And she says, because it brings my elevation down and you can't talk to me. And that's why she's doing that. I think, because you don't know who it is and it doesn't matter, I think it will kill her because it's such an effort to keep control of it. So what I'm saying is, as much as I hate to say it, no other crystal skull in the world has suture lines for the skull. No other crystal skull has film of it being found. Is it true? I do know this. I was told it was brought by an original woman from the middle, somewhere near Uluru, that covered it up in clay and brought it to somewhere in Queensland and left it there for a reason. I also know the people who have this skull have taken it to the carry-on glyphs, and they've taken it to other sacred sites. Nobody knows about it. They're not putting a show on. You'll never know who they are, and they're not making any money from it. I think they're legitimate. I think the skull has got a 95% chance of being legitimate too, and that's why we show it. But what I won't do is I don't want to be asked questions on it because it's such a dodgy thing to put in, because we get smashed for putting this in. But I've met these people, and you don't know their names, you never will, and they're not getting a cent for it. And there's no red clay like this in the place we went to. the clay doesn't belong there. I know that myself, which meant they would have had to fly to Uluru to get the clay and then bring it back and put it on top of the fake skull. No, it just doesn't work for me. I think there could be something in that. There's some photographs that were taken with some special lens that's supposed to give the energy that comes off there. I can tell you I have a section of the skull at home. A piece of crystal fell off in my hand. They said, take it home. I did try once to see if it works, and I can tell you it does, but we won't go through those stories because I don't want to do that again. You certainly don't get to sleep. Okay, skip that please, Evan. We've got time for a couple more before we put everyone to sleep here. Huh? 9:45. Okay, well, we've got a few more. Okay, we'll get you a bit past 10 and then people will start to fall asleep and I'll probably be the first one to go. All right. Been rabbiting on about the Egyptians being here. We think we found the treaty that was made between the Egyptians and the original people in Sydney. Okay. Strange story this. We've got time for this one. We got told by two elders and a person that met some people, a Navajo elder we've been in contact with. Wasn't it Chadro, isn't it, Evan? Yeah. He said he came here in 1953. He's getting on a bit now. And he spoke to original people and he said that when when Philip came here, the very first time, an elder came up and told him to go away. We have a treaty. Now, I've heard this from 3 different elders. I don't know if others have. Told them we have a treaty and showed them the treaty. It was a big kerfuffle and we don't know what happened. End of the story, okay? And that's the story. That's what we've heard. Now, this is a different story. What happened was this lady, she has a family, and her family were asked to do some work about 20 years ago in Penrith. And Penrith, there was a farm. It was offered to Captain Arthur Phillip. He took Parramatta, and a guy called Sir John Jamieson took the Penrith farm. The two farms that were offered. So, and this farm was built in the 1790s. And these guys were asked in the 1990s to come to this particular farm because some of the buildings were now getting old. You know, when buildings get 200 years, they get old and they sort of start to fall apart a bit. Now in Europe, if it's a 200-year-old building, what will they do? They'll restore it, won't they? That's what you do in Europe, wouldn't you? And if it was most other places in the world, if it was a 200-year-old building, one of the very first ones built in your country, you would restore it, wouldn't you? Well, this is Australia, isn't it? What was their job? The buildings were condemned as unsafe. Their job was to smash them all down. Welcome to Australia. By the way, you'll find this when you go out to artefacts and sites. We do it everywhere. Anyway, so there was the option. Their job was to smash the whole thing down. So they're smashing away with a sledgehammer. But they had a problem. Between two walls, they couldn't knock the walls down because there was a damn tablet inside there, an Egyptian tablet. And it looked like that, except it wasn't broken. Let me explain how we do this in Australia. So, the two men come up to the boss and say, "Boss, we've got a problem. We've got this stupid," and they picked it up, "we've got this stupid piece of tablet thing in here. What are we going to do with it?" And the boss looks at it and says, "Chuck it in the dip." That's a good start. This is Australia in the 20th century. Anyway, but old mate, the worker says, no, I think this is not right. I think we should look after it. Good news, isn't it? So what he does is, he says, taking the tip, so what he does is he goes and gets the plate, tablet, and he's about 5 metres away from the ute, and he throws it in the ute, in the back of the ute. Unfortunately, this is not actually rock, this is plaster. When you throw plaster tablets 5 or 10 metres and it lands on metal, there's not a good reaction. And it broke. But the good news was it didn't break completely, did it, Evan? Wasn't a complete break. No, it was just broken a bit. So he then takes it home and decides to hammer it up against the wall, nail it up against the wall. That's how you hang things. You just put a nail through it. And as he nails it up against the wall, lo and behold, guess what happens? It falls down and breaks again. So he decides to keep it for a while. Oh, shit. It's only, by the way, you'd think I'm making this up, but I'm not. It's true. It's a true story. So anyway, a couple of years later, he decides to get rid of it. So he's driving it along, and he pulls up next to, who was it, Tina? No. What's her name? Tracy, that's right. And Tracy looks at it. Now, I've got to tell you something. Tracy's great-great-grandfather was Howard Carter, the one that went in through the Tutankhamun thing. She looks at it and says, "Dad, you've had that for a while. What are you going to do with it?" "Oh, I'm going to get rid of it." "Can I have it?" So, yeah, okay, you can have it. So he goes to hand it to and he drops it on the ground and breaks it again. So that was the third break, and that's what you've got now. That's the stage we've got to. It's no more breaks. No more breaks. It's finished now. It's ready. So there we go. She's got it. So she contacts us, and we look at it. The first thing we notice, a lot of the glyphs here are found between the two walls of Carrion, same sort of glyphs at Gosford. Then we find out later it's actually the Stela of Cenobeth. It's one of the most famous tablets in Egypt. Oh, it's incredibly famous. And when Napoleon got in there and they found Egypt, very soon after, they barged in there, and the first thing they copied was the Stela of Cenobeth. They started copying it in 1826. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, this was built in 1790. And I can tell you the first couple of copies of the Stela of Cenobeth didn't go to Australia. They went to Europe. So this was done before they did a copy. Now, the argument is it's a copy. My comment would be, if it's a copy, how come when they started doing copies in 1826 the building was already built? But there's a bigger problem. Could you go on to the next picture, please, Evan? The copies and the original are plaster. That's all they've got inside them. Look at this one. It's got crystals and small rocks inside, not like the others. This is the only one that has a different material. All the others are plaster. We believe that the copy they have in Egypt is the second copy. This is the original that was left in Australia. And I think someone picked it up in 1790 when this was first done and hid it. And I think they probably hid it with the intention of picking it up when they got a ticket of leave to go back and sell it. But as you know, the life expectancy of a convict in Australia when they first got here was about half, 1/3 of an original person. They died like flies because they didn't eat properly. They didn't know what they were doing. This has all this different stuff inside. We believe it is not. They claim it's a funeral tablet. The problem is the Stela of Cenobeth is found where there were no bodies. And that's ridiculous. You have your story next to your body so that gods know what you did. If your story is 5 miles away, it doesn't work. We also believe that's what it looks like when you sort of put it back together. It's 3-dimensional with the Ankh in the centre. And by the way, the oldest engraving of an Ankh in the world is found in Gosford. It's 10,000 years old. It's not found in Australia. And we've got a picture of that, but we won't get to that one today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we think this was the action. I've done an interpretation of it. And I've looked at this, and the very important glyph, because glyphs are contextual. You start your glyph, and that tells you where you go. We believe the really important part of the whole of this story is that one there, which means beginning, divide, and mission. Now, they claim it's a story of death. We claim it's a story of them going to heaven on earth. And when you go there, you'll find there are symbols and things you take there. We found that particular symbol there, which is only found in Australia, which means etheric region. It's not found in Egypt. It's found in the glyphs of Carrion. We believe it's a story about them coming here and bringing gifts, which is what you do in the afterworld. When you go, you bring all your gifts. The reason why we know it's not a funeral tablet is because there are mentioned 5 people on the funeral tablet, but there's only 3 people mentioned as being dead, 3 that are portrayed as dead. 2 were mentioned on the glyph, but we saw no picture of their body. That shouldn't happen. We believe it was actually, this was the treaty. And that's the first part of the reading which we've looked at, I welcome you and stuff like that, all runs into that story. We'll argue with others about that, but we will make one point. There is no way it is a copy that was done in 1826, because the building of the convict place that was done in 1794. And I can tell you now, when they did make a copy, it went to Europe. It didn't go to Australia, to Penrith, to be put inside a building. Okay, please, Evan, we'll sneak a couple more in. This is very important. For those people who were talking before about cataclysms, do you want proof of a cataclysm? We'll give you one now. Yes, there have been cataclysms before, and I think in other places the civilisations and their technology was destroyed, but not in Australia. This is an amazing piece of work. It's a compass that's found about 30 k's from Gosford, up the hill a bit, and it was looked at by a professor from Newcastle Uni. Can you put it up, please, Evan? Here it is. It's a compass, ladies and gentlemen. It's straight. Each one of those lines you're looking at now, every one of them goes down 90 degrees, flat on the bottom, and goes straight up, and it's only this wide. Every one of them is equally wide, the same amount. When you look at that circle, have a look close up. Where's your chisel mark? Where's the chisel mark if it was chiseled? There isn't one. There's no chisel mark. It's a perfectly straight line. We're getting this all the time. Are they cutting into the rock with laser? Are they cutting into with sound? Or are they melting the rock first? But I'll tell you what they're not doing. They're not chiseling. That's too crude for them. They're way past that. We chisel. They'd look at it and say, no, we're not doing that. What's fascinating about this story, it is a compass. It's geometric, and as you know, the original people don't do geometric shapes. Well, yes, they do. There's your north, there's your south, and this is where it gets interesting. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's 15 degrees off. North is 15 degrees east of where it should be. Which means, as the professor said when he looked at this, we can do this in the laboratory with laser, but we can't do it in the field. We may be able to do it in 15 years from now. They can. Why can't we? We must be up to where they're up to then. The second part of the story was 15 degrees off. That means that somebody came out into the bush in the middle of nowhere, made some technology that no one on the planet has, but couldn't read the compass when they put it on the rock. They were that stupid, they couldn't even work to read a compass. But they could do that. They could do something that the professor says we can't do, but couldn't read the compass properly? No. They read the compass properly, but when that was done, the Earth was in a different position. It's been shoved and moved. That's what it means. There's no other answer for it. I know where it is. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's still in the middle of nowhere. It's in a place where no one farms. It wasn't done. When our surveyors do mark out direction, they don't do the compass. They mark out a trig point. We've seen it's a 3-point trig point, and it points in a direction for you. It tells you where it's going. They don't do the full compass for you and say, work it out from there. And if they did the compass, they'd at least get it correct. But they couldn't even do that right, because this was done by an earlier civilization and technology that did know where 15 degrees off north was, because that's where it was. And that's what they've done for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, now, what's the next one, Evan? I'll work out. Huh? Oh, we should, shouldn't we? We should. We should do something spiritual again, shouldn't we? Let's do it. We'll sneak this one in. I'm just playing away to what we've got with. We have no actual proof. Yeah. 15 women have laid in this table. Okay? 15 women. Now, the reason I know it's a healing table is because I was told that by original people. And I'm told a woman is to lay in there. If she laid in there long enough, she would cure all her illnesses, but she may not come back. There it is. It's found. It's a lip that runs on top of a rock, and I can tell you the rock is modelled, and this is perfectly safe. It runs around here, all the way there, and the women lay inside it. The women lay inside it. And inside there, they have the most amazing, amazing experiences. But how can I prove that to you? I could tell you about one woman that lost a child and had it hovering above her, a 2-year-old child. I can tell you one woman who claims she was in a spaceship going to the Pleiades and she didn't want to come back. I could tell you of other women that came back and they couldn't talk for 3 days, but that's just my word for it. We've got to do this properly. I've got to give you evidence, and I can. I'm going to show you 2 pictures, 2 time-lapse pictures of one white lady laying on the actual table, and you'll see that to begin with she gets surrounded in blue light, and that gives us a clue where this is coming from. And then the second one. Can we put it up, please, Evan? There they are. This was done without any trick on the lens. This is just a normal lens. Blue just starting around there. 10 seconds later, that's what you get. No tricks of the camera, ladies and gentlemen. No old-field lens or anything like that. That's what happens to women when they get there. If you get a chance to meet Michael Tellinger, ask Louise what happened when she went there. We sent the 4 ladies there, didn't we? We spent an hour and they just didn't come back. And I was going to ask them what happened. And I looked in their eyes and thought, this would be a waste of time. It changed their life. This is an incredibly important place for women. For women. Women can lay there. If they're spiritual women. I've been with 15 women who've laid there. One woman didn't get a reaction. She had a very good reason for that. She was 11. She wasn't a woman. She was a child. And when she's old enough, she's a spiritual child, she'll get a lot from it. But the rest, normally the birds sing as they get there, the whole thing. Honestly, it happens every time. That is normal. We expected nothing less than that. Because you see, as I said before, these sites, when you go there, you go to a sacred site, they're watching you. They're watching every step you make. And if you make a bad one, I'll tell you, don't worry about that. Okay, one more, Evan, then we might stop because it is getting on now. I think we're getting towards closing time at the shop. I don't even know what the next one is, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we're going to finish for that, are we? All right. Okay, let's finish. Does anyone know, anyone heard of the Gympie Pyramid? All right. Right, well, let's get this right. It's not the Gympie Pyramid. Respect to the Cubby Gubby, because I'm working with them, they would prefer it's called the Healing Place. Okay? So I think we should call it that because there's a reason for that, and I'll come to that too. That's why these two go together. We put them together for that reason. Let's call it the Healing Place because that's what they call it. Okay, if we can, please. Now, that story is interesting because we went there with a person called Graham Hancock. We spent 6 days with him. Somebody up the back would know Graham quite well, and I can tell you, Graham speaks about the most important day he had in Australia. It wasn't with us, was it, Evan? No. It wasn't with us. Don't even speak about us. He speaks about the elder he went and saw. We get a mention occasionally in the background. Most amazing part of his time here or anywhere else was the time he spent with an elder. But, you know, we got pictures of him here anyway, so we had some time with him anyway. Look, we didn't want to go there. Graham said when we were up down at our place nearby, can we go to Gympie? He said, no, I don't want to go. Not interested. Don't want to do it. I've heard so much about it, so much drama. Don't want to see it. Don't really care. But we went anyway. Okay, put the pictures up, Evan. We'll tell them what happened. And that's what happened. Doesn't look like much, does it? What are you looking at? Looking at a rock with something underneath. I'll tell you what you're looking at. That's sandstone. That thing there is a computer that came out of a... That's a magnet that came out of a computer. And I want to tell you what happened. He picked the sandstone rock up and said, watch this. He held the sandstone rock here, got the magnet, let go of the magnet. It smashed onto the rock. It's sandstone. Now here's the interesting part. He turned the rock around to the other side. He put the magnet on the rock and it fell off. It's magnetised on half of the sandstone rock but not the other half. Now I can tell you that is geologically impossible. Graham's not an idiot. Graham Hancock's not an idiot. We tried everything we can to work it out. It doesn't make sense. I've spoken to the top geologists in this country. We've done maps of the whole area to see what rocks are there. It doesn't make sense. Now, you can't half magnetise sandstone. In fact, you can't magnetise sandstone anyway. I didn't want to see the Gympie Pyramid. Now I was interested. Then he did another one. He showed us this one. See that one there? This one here. You put the magnet on the crust, it will stick. You put the magnet on the crust, it will stick. You put it on that, it won't stick. That's not right either. I've got 2 geologically anomalies in the same place. Now I'm interested in the Gympie Healing Place. Why? Because those 2 things don't make sense. Those 2 things aren't right. So, now this gentleman who met us had shown us these 2 rocks. We hadn't been to the Gympie Pyramid. We were down the bottom of it. And it's a crappy looking slope. It's just bladey grass all over. It doesn't look like anything. But now I want to look at it. Then he brings this out. Yeah, I know. He could have made this before. He could have scratched it up the day before just to impress us. But he couldn't have done the other 2 rocks. You can't do them. They don't make sense. He reckons he found that there too. I'm starting to believe him now. Now I'm interested in the Gympie Healing Pyramid, healing table, healing whatever. Because I'm seeing things there, not so much the shape of the rocks, but I'm seeing things at the bottom here. So we'll look a bit further now. There's Graham doing one of his serious poses. Whenever the camera goes on, he turns on a camera face, doesn't he, Evan? He can be doing anything. As soon as the camera goes near him, just click, he's back in the mode for this. And now what we've decided, ladies and gentlemen, is he's going to write about this in Fingerprints of the God Part 2, and he's coming around next year to flog it. There's a good chance we'll be doing it with him. He's going to do that site. We don't write about it anymore. Because when he writes about it, and he's from overseas, people might listen. If we write about it, ageing hippie and his son writing about it will mean nothing. But he's going to write about it. He tells us These walls are just like the walls of Machu Picchu. Well, I don't know that. I've never been there, but he does. So it's better he says that. So it's now his site. We don't write about it. But you need to understand, next one please, Evan, that what he's got there, he's adamant. Oh, better not show that. That might be the gentleman up. I think I know that man. I think they were meeting at the finish there. Right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to stop now. We could go on for another 5 hours. Well, probably you might, but I couldn't. I'm going to try and sort of tidy this up a bit for now because our talks always change, as the gentleman up there knows quite well, and it'll be different next time. I want to try and explain what we're teaching, what we're trying to show you today. I talk about earlier people, earlier civilisations, but I'm going to finish this. When I talked about 2 lineages, I'm going to give you the second lineage now. The first one, Homo erectus, I can go with that. I'm cool with that. I think Homo erectus is a base. But I'm going to tell you the second one is not a hominid. My take is there's a story that goes to every tribal boundary in Australia. Only one. I went up to Gangamaya. We're not going to see that today, in Port Hedland. They told me if they blow that cave up, it's the middle star of the Pleiades. Their dreaming is dead. Everything's gone because they won't have Az on top anymore. I go to every place in this country, and like it or not, I'm going to hear about the Pleiades and the Seven Sisters. I'm going to tell you now, the 2 people involved in creating the original people, Homo erectus, yes. Homo pleiadian, more than likely. I'm sorry, but I don't see any other way around it. And I think what happened is this. I agree with Michael Tellinger. I believe they made Homo sapiens in Africa differently, to work the minds, to be compliant, to do what they're told, to do another person's bidding. But the Homo sapien they made here was meant to be greater than either the gods of the Pleiadians or ours. It was meant to be something better. And that's why here we have walkabout, where an original person goes and finds their own spirits. Where in other countries we go into a room and we're told what to think. And we believe, when I told you at the start that all other people come from us, I believe there are 2 Homo sapien genes in this planet. There's the Pleiadian Homo sapien gene that is about finding your own wisdom, finding your own path, and doing it yourself. Then you've got the Syrian Homo sapien gene, which is about follow the group. Don't do anything differently. Be part of what you're doing and obey. And I believe that in us now, we have the genes of both. And when the original people went out, I'm not saying they were the first Homo sapiens, but I'm saying they're the ones who gave us wisdom, they gave us knowledge, they gave us art, they gave us communication, they gave us astronomy, and they dragged us out of the caves. And as they dragged us out of the caves, they gave us their genes. And those genes, I think, are stirring right now, because you've got to remember, the scientists will tell you that 90% of your genetic code is junk. If your heart worked at 90% off, you'd be dead. If your liver's like that, you're in hospital. But apparently, the whole body can work with 10% working only. I don't believe that. I believe there's stuff in there we don't understand. So I believe, and this is my opinion, I'm not saying this is an original opinion, but I'm working on what I've heard, that what we have when we talk about 2 lineages, yes, we do have 2 lineages. And that junk DNA is throwing us because we don't recognise it. Because it isn't ours, but it is ours. And when we embrace it, it will become ours. So we believe that what we have in this country is they were the first people. That's a given. The genetics proves it. We could do this for hours and win our point each time. The genetics is there. We've now seen a little bit, 1/5, 1/6 of what we've got, of the stuff that's going on there, that shows you they were far more intelligent than anyone says, that they had technology we don't understand. Where did it come from? They have wisdom of the ages and teachings that we should have known. All those things are there. What we have to work out, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close with this because it is time and it's getting late, is this. We did an interview a couple of days ago, was it Illinois or somewhere? Where they were saying the original people, the Hopi people, were saying this year. All in India, in America, they're all saying this year, last year. Next year, very important. I can tell you here, my understanding is the reason why we have this information is we have to have it this year and tell people. And we're going to keep doing it the whole of this year, because next year people are going to have to make a decision about what they think is right and wrong. So this is part of a change that's coming in and coming around. You see, when I showed you that site that's still alive, all of this is still alive. The Council of Elders never stopped meeting. We just didn't hear about it for a while. They're still around. But we know, we've been told by so many people, there's a change ahead next year. What is the change? I have no friggin' idea. But I can tell you something, there's something coming. Graham, Michael, all the people overseas are talking about this too. This is a common conversation we had overseas. They're saying the same thing. They can feel it in the audience and they can feel it in what's taking place. What people have got to realise is it began here. This is the place where it began. I can tell you now, Michael Tellinger is now telling everyone humanity began in Australia. He gets it now. He understands it. Graham Hancock is starting to talk about the fact that there may have been aliens about. He doesn't want to talk about it, but he does now, doesn't he? Heaven, have I lost you? I thought he was going under again. No, we're not doing it. We're not doing the bone. So this is something that's taking place, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why this is here. What we've got to try and convince people now is look at these rocks and say to yourself, my history books are wrong. Then you've got to ask yourself, why are they wrong? They know the truth. The people that are ahead of us that are supposed to be running this show, they know damn well what's going on. We know it because we've been constantly harassed by them for the last 3 or 4 years. They know this is true. And what we all need to understand is this, and I'm going to close with this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to close with an Art Martha's saying. And it says this, it began here, it finishes here, and will begin again here. We're now in the begin again stage. So ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing is I've shown you what was here before, and I'm showing you what's here now, and I'm giving you a hint that it hasn't gone away. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for staying for so long. I appreciate you guys coming for the day, because it's very hard at the end of the day to do 4 hours of lecturing in a classroom like this. But there's a little bit of the history of the past. There's a lot more. And if I can ask you, we did this as a preliminary tour to come back in August. Tell some other people what we're on about, and I'll guarantee you when you come next time, we'll have a lot of new stuff. It won't be the same again. But there'll be one part of this story that won't change. The original people are the first people, and guess what? We are too. We're all part of that mob. That mob now doesn't have any colour anymore now. It's just what's inside here. And you have to know, everyone in this planet has got those Pleiadian original genes inside you. All you got to do is just let them come back out, and they'll come and grab you and take hold of it. And when they do, you'll enjoy it. Thank you so much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Okay. Please come along, have a look at the rocks. Any questions you want, please, by all means, ask. Okay. How are we going? Even with that, about what time is it? How do we go